from California, Mr. Garamendi, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the work that you're personally doing in reaching out and trying to make sure that the supplies are getting to where they need to go, particularly the journey that you took 2 weeks ago to Greece, Romania, and Poland. My question first goes to you, Mr. Stork. Thank you for your detailed explanation of the various projects that you have underway, you and your colleagues have underway. I'd like you to very briefly, or as whatever necessary, summarize the reports that you have provided over the last year and a half. There seems to be two different pieces to that, one of which you have already talked to, and that is suggested improvements in the auditing, in the transfer of weapons and the like. And if you'd like to go into that a little more. And secondly, if you would summarize the findings of those reports, following up on the question earlier about what you actually found.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the question. As you say, the reports that we've issued to date over the past year since the 2022 invasion really have fallen largely into two categories. A couple of them have looked at issues that we identified relating to the way in which the money that was appropriated is being tracked and the way in which it is being entered into the systems. And so the concerns there are that if there aren't additional improvements, that those could result in a lack of transparency or impair the transparency of those funds. So the department has been making progress in those areas. We've continued to look at that. And as I mentioned, we've recently initiated an audit that's looking at the actual execution of the funds appropriated. So that's sort of an ongoing priority, is how's the money being spent. We did identify issues with the systems and with the procedures in place, made recommendations to help to address.
Let's be clear then, is the department following on your recommendations and making progress to achieve the goals that you've stated?
So, yes, sir. The first management advisory didn't actually have specific recommendations. It raised a number of concerns. The second one did have one recommendation, and that related to putting in place procedures that were more robust in ensuring things were tracked properly. The department has made progress in that area. The recommendation remains open. We're continuing to track it, and then we'll continue to look at that in the course of the ongoing audit.
And so you continue to look for perfection, as you should.
Absolutely, sir.
The second thing, findings that you, beyond the recommendations for the procedures, the findings, did you find any indication that there was a diversion of equipment of any kind?
Again, the second set of projects that we've released or evaluations looking at the controls that DoD has over this end-use monitoring and enhanced end-use monitoring. Once the weaponry goes into Ukraine, there needs to be appropriate accountability and tracking, and so the DoD has responsibilities to do that. So in the first of those reports, we did make a number of findings and recommendations. Most of those have been addressed and the recs have been closed. There are a couple that are outstanding relating to night vision goggles and steps that are being taken. The department has made progress in those areas, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at the current state of that in connection with the newly announced EEUM evaluation that I mentioned. So there's been progress, and that's an ongoing process.
Very good, and I would just comment quickly, I'm very pleased that you're setting up a very robust operation in Ukraine itself, that you're reestablishing within the embassy the various auditing groups necessary to carry it out. Is that the case?
Well, what we have done, sir, is we've forward deployed a significant number of people into the region to do oversight over the supply and training mission, most of which occurs before any weaponry crosses into Ukraine. Then, using some of the same techniques, frankly, we used during, and not just my office, but across the IG community during the COVID pandemic, we're doing additional monitoring relating to the EUM and EEUM and getting information from the military personnel who are at the embassy regarding what's currently being done. If we need to go further and go in, we will, but at this point, we have it covered.
Good, thank you very much. Bottom line is that the programs are working, that diversions are not happening, and the equipment's getting where it needs to go. Is that it?
We're doing oversight to make sure the department has placed all the controls it needs to make sure that happens, sir.
Didn't quite get to what I'm talking about. You've not found problems of any great significance. Is that correct?
Right. Well, again, a lot of these audits and evaluations are pending, but with regard to the areas I've mentioned, we had limited findings. The department has been addressing them, and we're going to continue to look at the issues. So yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Virginia.